Hello there. Welcome to Play Tennis Practice Yoga. My name is Margit Bannon, and today's practice is inspired by Liz Owen's book called Yoga for a Healthy Lower Back. So we'll be working specifically with the sacral area or the sacrum, which is a triangular or a heart-shaped bone just above the tailbone. So if you experience low back pain, maybe even on one side of your body more so than the other, you might find this practice helpful, as I found for my own body. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and show you how this is done. A couple things you might find helpful for today's practice are a strap, a yoga block, and a blanket to pad the knees. If you enjoyed this practice, please subscribe to my channel, Play Tennis Practice Yoga, for videos every Tuesday. So as you can see, I'm starting here on my back. I have my feet a little wider than my hips. My knees are just gently falling towards one another. And I'm going to take just a couple moments to feel the weight of my body against my mat. Take a couple moments to feel my breath. Feel it within a soft manner. Maybe even invite the breath into the lower back area. And then once I've set that intention, we'll go ahead and begin to move gently as I widen my knees, as I bring my feet a little more hips width apart. And we're going to do what's called sacral circles. So we're going to try to move from the pelvis rather than the legs, even though you'll see the legs moving. So you're going to rock onto the back of one of your hip bones. You'll tip your tailbone towards you. You'll rock across to the other side. You'll roll the tail forward and you'll come back over to the original side. So it's as if you're creating a hula hooping like action within the hips, and you're just tracing the outer edges of your sacrum or that sacral bone above the tailbone. That includes the tailbone. So you're rocking to one side, rolling towards the tail, rocking to the other side, tipping the tail towards you. Once you've done that a few times, go ahead and take it into the opposite direction. Again, perhaps imagining that hula hooping like action that can sometimes feel a little awkward if you're not used to moving in this manner. So nothing to perfect today, but just something to perhaps start to practice to loosen up the lower back. So I'm going to go ahead and allow my hips to feel heavy for at least a breath. And then I'm going to go ahead and widen my feet, again, wider than the hips like I did before. I'm going to allow my knees to fall towards one another. Now, in this pose, what we're attempting to do is to tip the tailbone up towards us. We're going to draw our navel strongly in towards our spine, and we're going to squeeze the inner knees together for a count of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release the squeeze of the knees, relax the hold you had within your hips. Take a breath because we're going to repeat that one more time. So again, you'll tip your tailbone towards you, you'll draw your navel strongly in toward your spine, you'll squeeze the inner knees together, this time counting on your own, silently in your head, 10 seconds. And then you'll go ahead and release the squeeze of the knees, relax any holding you had within your pelvis, and then go ahead and relax the knees away from one another as you bring your feet about hips width apart. So for where we're going next, you might find it helpful to have a strap nearby. We're going to come to hug the knees in towards the chest, but instead of hugging in front of the knees, we'll hug underneath the knees as we widen the knees a little more so than our torso. So it's as if my knees are pointing towards my armpits as I now come to reach the heels up directly over the knees. So a couple things here. You're going to feel that your low back is grounded. Hopefully, if not, that's a sign that you might be pushing too hard. We want to feel the shoulders grounded as well. We don't want to be straining to take a hold of the legs. So we might be here and hanging on to the backs of the knees, backs of the thighs. We might be coming up a little higher to the calves or even the feet. But I suspect many of you will benefit from using a strap because we can take a strap and make the same connection to the feet so that we don't have to strain. This is happy baby pose. So again, I'm looking for my lower back to feel grounded. I'm looking to have my shoulder blades on the ground so that I'm not straining my neck and my shoulders. And the goal here is I press my feet into the strap and the strap in towards the feet, or if I'm using the hands, it would be the same actions here, is to see if I can relax deeply within the hips, relax those muscles within the lower back area towards my tail a little bit more. And again, I'm going to come to my breath to see if things begin to soften up the longer I hold the pose. So there are many ways of propping for this pose that I might show you at a later time, but this is one very valuable basic way that we can take the happy baby pose. Not so easy for tennis players if we're not used to taking this posture. And then let's go ahead and soften so that we can bring the legs together, place the feet on the mat, and take a couple of breaths. It's easy to strain in that pose, so allow yourself to start from a fresh place before we start into the next posture. Very nice. So from there, we're going to go ahead and hug right knee in towards the chest, this time so that we can strap the bottom of right foot. We're going to slowly extend that leg upward, and you want to see that your leg is straight. So even if you have to angle your leg a little more forward, you'll want to do that so that your leg can straighten completely. Notice how my hands are high up on the strap so that my elbows are straight, but I still have my shoulder blades on the ground. I'm not straining to take a hold of the strap. I'm gently pressing my foot into the strap in towards the foot, and I'm breathing into the back of the leg. So there are a lot of associations between tight hamstrings and lower back pain. This is a very important one for tennis players here. And I have the option of keeping my other leg bent, foot on the ground, or if I have a little more flexibility, I might come to extend the bottom leg down, where I gently press the heel in towards the ground. So again, I'll be here a couple of breaths, seeing if things begin to soften up the longer I hold the pose. And then I'm going to come out of this by softening the top knee, removing the strap off the foot. I'm going to relax both legs. So if I had both knees bent, I might have both knees bent, both feet on the ground. Allow both legs to be in the same place as you take a breath, perhaps observing if the one side you've worked with feels different from the other. And then we'll come to bend the knees and bring the feet to the mat, and we'll work with the second side as we draw left knee in towards the chest and as we come to strap the bottom of the left foot. Again, can I find the place where my leg is straight? I'm going to begin to energize the leg a little bit by pressing foot into strap in towards foot. And I let go of all the tensions that don't need to be in the pose. So common areas include the shoulders, the neck, the jaw. Staying here, or perhaps challenging further by extending the bottom leg down. So if it causes lower back pain or strain to extend that bottom leg down, you are staying with this bent knee version. For me, it kind of depends on the day and what I've been doing. The goal here is to not cause more stress and strain, but to relieve that tension as we work with the breath. And then I'll go ahead and soften the knee so that I can slip the strap off of the foot. I'll place that strap off to the side. And once again, I'll take a little mini relaxation pose to feel a little more balance between the sides. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bend the knees. Let's find our block. And if you don't have these things at home, you can find things that mimic these yoga props that we're using. This one's a little tougher to explain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my block on its lowest height. I'm going to place it on the ground. I might use my feet a little bit to have it between the feet initially. And then I'm going to extend my bottom leg down. So if you're familiar with tree pose, this is going to resemble a reclined tree pose where I'm going to keep the opposite knee bent. I'm going to open the leg out to the side, and I'm going to allow the outer edge of my foot to rest on this block. So if I take my hands to my front hip bones and I relax my bent knee leg in that tree shape, it's going to feel like perhaps that hip bone is falling more towards the ground. I want you to energize the bottom leg by grounding through that bottom heel a bit. And now what I want you to do is I want you to tip your tail towards you, draw the navel in towards the spine, and I want you to firm the buttocks on your right side Observe how your hip bones might feel as if they're coming into a little more of an alignment. And now we're going to hold that for a count of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Soften the strength of the pose. Again, notice what happens within your hips. It might feel like that right leg or your bent knee leg is able to relax towards the ground a little bit more. And then one more time, let's draw the navel in towards the spine. Let's tip the tailbone upward. Let's firm the right buttocks. So holding that strength for a count of 10 now, counting to yourself silently in your head. Notice if things feel a little more awake and alive second time through. I know it does for me. So just bringing a little more strength to the ligaments supporting the sacrum. And then relax a hold of that strength. Again, just notice what happens in the hips when you do that. And then take your hand to draw your bent knee leg upward. I like to bend the knees and bring my feet along either side of that block. And then I'm just going to simply slide the block over to the other side so that I can extend my opposite leg. I can allow my other knee to bend and splay open. And I'm going to rest the outer edge of this other foot on the block. So again, can I find my hands on my front hip bones, relax the bent lean leg here initially, and now tip the tailbone upward, draw the navel in towards the spine. Again, firm the buttocks of this other side now. We're holding for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As you soften it all for a moment, notice what happens within the alignment of the hips. And then let's try that one more time. Tip the tailbone up towards you, navel in towards the spine. Again, firm the buttocks on this bent knee side, counting backward from 10 to yourself. Noticing how things feel second time around, and perhaps on your second side, things can feel quite different in a posture such as this. So now relax the hold of the pose. Take your hand underneath that bent knee leg. Again, can we bend both knees? Feet are going to come to the mat, and we can go ahead and slide that block off to the side, and then come to hug the knees in towards the chest. So I've got my hands on my kneecaps. I'm going to take a couple moments just to circle the hips. So notice how I'm moving my legs independently of one another. And then let's change direction. So just getting a little bit of movement in through the hips. And then let's bring it back in towards center for a moment. Relax the feet to the ground. And then slowly roll over to your side. So notice how I'm supporting my head. I'm going to use this top arm to press myself up. And then I'm going to take the support of my blanket, what have you, underneath the knees. So I'm going to bring that about centered on my mat. You could come higher up on this padding if you prefer. So as you can see, I'm padding beneath my knees to give a little support to my knees because I'm going to be coming onto one knee shortly. So I have my hands beneath my shoulders, my hips over my knees. I can even bring my knees a little closer to one another to aid me in my balance here. And I'm going to press away from the ground, coming to a nice solid base here initially. I'm also going to draw my navel gently in towards my spine. So keeping my gaze steady towards the ground, I'm going to reach my right leg back and my left arm forward in hunting dog pose. So I'm going to hold this for strength for about 6 breaths or so. Be mindful that you're not hiking this leg higher up than the opposite hip. So we're just looking to reach back heel backward, front arm forward. It's not about getting high, but keeping the arm, the torso, and the leg in one straight line. As I now slowly come down, take a moment, maybe even shake out the wrist of the arm that was supporting me. And now I'm going to go ahead and reach my left leg back, my right arm forward. So if the balance was shaky, I could use the ground as well as an option. Again, can I balance out the hips? Can I reach out through the back heel and forward with the opposite arm? Feel the strength you're creating within the lower back area. And then I'm going to lower myself down. And briefly, I'm going to sink my hips back in towards a child's pose. So I'm just doing this to set my arms for what we call downward facing dog. So my fingers are spread wide. My elbows are off the mat. I want to ground into my hands. So from child's pose, we'll slowly come on up. We can inhale here. As we exhale, we can curl the toes under. Notice how my knees are bent. I'm going to keep my knees bent as I lift my hips off the mat. I want to reach my hips up and back. And what I'm looking for here is that I want to feel as if I'm reaching both hips up and back evenly in space. And then if I'm able to begin to straighten the legs a little bit without losing the alignment of my pose, without rounding in my spine, I might begin to do that. But I'm really looking to elongate through the spine first and foremost here. For some of us, keeping a slight bend to the knees might be a little healthier for the lower back. So a couple of breaths in the downward facing dog pose. And then I'm going to slowly lower my knees down. Again, I might take a brief child's pose. This time I might make a pillow with my hands beneath my forehead. Take about 3 breaths, never forcing the hips back towards the heels if this doesn't work for your body. And then we're going to slowly come on up. So there you have it, a little mini practice inspired by Liz Owens, Yoga for Healthy Lower Back. Hope that felt great in your body. If you enjoyed this practice, please subscribe to my channel, Play Tennis Practice Yoga, for videos every Tuesday. In the meantime, happy practicing.